What's going on, you guys? Welcome back to EP09. So, it looks like the IFBB Elite Pro still has some hidden talent out there. Now, this bodybuilder here, he goes by Destiny5 on Instagram, but his real name, I'm going to do my best for you guys here, is Davo Ndukoro, but I'm just going to call him Davo for short. He is an IFBB Elite Pro champion. He actually won a competition named the Mr. and Mrs. World Championship in 2022. Well, I believe he won this competition. And the physique that we're seeing here has such a massive amount of potential. He's actually 4 weeks out of his next competition in these pictures, and when you look at this physique, he's got really round muscle bellies, great proportions. He looks like a younger competitor, but he does get extremely hard and grainy on show day, which you usually do not see that level of muscle maturity in younger competitors. And you know, with more overall size, a guy like this could really do very well in the IFBB Pro League. He mentioned almost a year ago that he was going to make the switch to the NPC, although we haven't seen that happen as of yet. He says he's still trying to fill in some of the gaps before he makes the official switch, but you know, his coach actually owns the Olympia gyms that you see overseas in the UAE. So this guy is really not just your average competitor. And we have seen great success from competitors making the switch to the IFBB Pro League. You know, you look at Michal Krizo, you look at Andrew Jacked. So at 4 weeks out of his next competition, this is a great introduction for us all to see. We'll follow Davo in his upcoming competition, and I think we could have a future star of the sport emerging right in front of us. Okay, so next up, like I said, one of the biggest stars to cross over from the Elite Pro, without a doubt, is Michal Krizo. And he really just needs no introduction at this point. And I still feel like Krizo is being overlooked as a potential threat to that top 8 or even that top 6 at this year's Olympia. And this year, Krizo looks like a whole new bodybuilder. He has the muscle mass, he has the height advantage, but he's filled out that massive frame despite being a taller bodybuilder. And at 6 weeks out of the Olympia, we're really starting to see a new level of thickness and density that we just did not see during the 2022 season. Krizo has always had that wow factor to his physique. He was always very round, but if he has that density that he lacked last year, and if he really brings his midsection in just a bit tighter, we could very well see Michal Krizo battling it out with the likes of guys like Hunter Labrada, Brandon Curry, or even Andrew Jacked for a spot in that first callout. Krizo is also a fan favorite, and don't think for a second that that doesn't play a part on that Olympia stage. He'll definitely make the second callout. I can pretty much guarantee that, and I expect him to be somewhere near the center, if not in the center. But now that he's really starting to shred down a bit more, you guys let me know in the comments below where you see Michal Krizo in the Olympia lineup this year. Okay, so next up, one competitor that we know will be fighting for one of those top spots. I would say the top 3 is Samson Dauda. Now, Samson dropped this update at 6 weeks out of the Olympia, and Samson says in this update that he's really always envisioned his physique being the embodiment of the classic era of bodybuilding, but really a bigger version of classic, which is exactly what Samson has evolved into. Not only does he really have that classic flow to his physique, but his presentation, I think, sets him apart from the competition. And for this year's Olympia prep, he is locked in and he is not holding back. Check it out.
Honestly, it's bizarre one because honestly, it's like we're going at it full force and we're making every single session feels like it's just a fucking... I just feel like I'm being hit by a freaking truck every time we go to the gym, man. I come back and I'm absolutely fucked. I'm exhausted, everything hurts, and I just want to go to sleep. And I know that I gotta wake up tomorrow morning and do it again. And there's no holding back from that, and that's what it's literally been.
So we are seeing an extremely focused Samson Dauda that is responding to the training, diet, and protocols at the highest level. And if the changes are happening as quickly and as drastically as he says at this point, I think we're all going to be just as excited to see the evolution toward the show day as much as the show day itself. Okay, so next up, we finally have a legitimate physique update from Brandon Curry at 7.5 weeks out of the Olympia. And you guys, we can just get right down to business here. Brandon Curry is one of the most counted out Olympians despite being the 2019 Olympia champion. Now the question is, why is it that Brandon Curry is counted out year after year? And you know, there's actually a lot of reasons, a lot of legitimate reasons. Brandon is in his 40s. His legs have always been his weakness. They just never really have caught up to his upper body. It is believed the reason that he was the 2019 Olympia champion is because the lineup that year was considered to be one of the weakest Olympia lineups in recent history. And now, the talk is surrounding some supposed muscle atrophy in Brandon's right quad and left arm, creating a further imbalance in his physique. And look, there are some valid points there, but I feel like the bodybuilding world is so hyper-focused on some of those points that nobody has really asked if Brandon Curry has made any improvements this year, and if Brandon Curry is still a legitimate contender for that top 5. So these two shots here are from 7 weeks out of the 2022 and 2023 Olympia, and when we look a little closer here, has Brandon put on any more size on his upper body? And you know what? I think he actually has. The chest looks fuller, the lats look wider. Is it a substantial amount of size? I don't think it is. But does he still have the imbalance between the upper and lower body? I think he absolutely does. I would argue that the supposed atrophy to his right leg and his left arm that people are talking about was really just as apparent looking at these comparisons here. But there's no denying the fact that Brandon does still bring a level of aesthetics to the men's open, and he does have enough size for him to continue placing highly at the Olympia. The difference is, Brandon goes to Kuwait for a number of weeks to ramp up things for the Olympia. But when you look at guys like Nick Walker, Derek, Samson, Hadi, Krizo, these guys have been ramping up steadily ever since the Olympia last year at their home base. And I think that is part of why we are seeing substantial improvements from these guys, and that could be why the improvements from Brandon seem to be less significant. But you guys let me know in the comments below if you have Brandon Curry in the top 5 or out of the top 5 this year. Okay, so last up, we've got an update here from Justin Rodriguez. Justin is currently sitting at 2 weeks out of his first and last show of the 2023 bodybuilding season, that being the Legion Sports Fest. That is, unless he plans on competing at a show after the Olympia. There is still another show to be able to qualify for next year's Olympia. But for a guy that competed in 7 shows in the 2022 bodybuilding season, including the Olympia, he definitely earned himself a much needed break. And that was pretty evident going into the 2023 Arnold Classic. He actually dropped out of that show within the last couple of weeks of the show because, I mean, you could just see it in his physique. Justin really did need a break. He just didn't have that pop anymore. In fact, most of us expected Justin to take the entire 2023 season off from competing. So the question is, at this point, has Justin Rodriguez taken enough time to not only rest and recover, but make any improvements? And looking at this physique update from 16 days out of the Arnold as compared to 17 days out of the Legion, I gotta be honest, I'm really not seeing a ton of improvements here. His conditioning looks to be very similar, and he looks to be about the same from a size standpoint as well. And Justin really does need to show up at his absolute best, because he'll be going up against Charles Griffin, and Charles actually beat Justin last year at the 2022 Indy Pro. Justin has always needed that tricep size to really round out his physique, and although I am a fan of Justin, I'm just not seeing it here, you guys. But regardless, Justin is a bodybuilder that historically does dial in very quickly in the last couple of weeks leading up to the show. And I will maintain that he has one of the best back lat spreads in the entire IFBB. So, we'll see how Justin dials in before the Legion, and either way, I'm looking forward to seeing him back on stage. Anyway, that's it for me in this video, you guys. Thank you for tuning into EP09. Be sure to like and subscribe.